Karen Sadler's on. Sheila Bronwyn, Lisa, Nancy, Jane, Elaine, Lorraine.
If everybody can hear me out in the internet world, sounds coming in okay there. Bronwyn, you can give me a wave. You get hear okay? All right. If you guys can't hear me out in the internet world, then we'll throw it in the chat there. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to our informational night here for the fire department. If you guys don't know me, my name is Brian Whalen. I'm the fire chief here in Georgetown, your fire chief. So first of all, I want to thank everyone who made the trip out tonight. I know the roads are doing okay, but it is winter after all, so we got a little bit of snow. So like I said, thanks for coming out. And yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the fire department tonight, what we do for you guys, what you guys want us to do for you, and things like that. So tonight is going to be a bit interactive. I hope to get some dialogue going back and forth, some conversations, that kind of thing, because this is not just you get information from us, but I'm needing information from you, and I want to know what you think, what you want to do, and things like that. So looking forward to doing that. So we'll start off first of all with who we are at the Georgetown Fire Department. The mission of the department here is to provide fire and EMS services to the town of Georgetown, all the residents, all of our visitors, and things like that. So to do that, we respond to any emergency calls that you have come up in town, and those can be highly varied. We can do medical calls, pretty much, or fire type calls, or non-medical calls. I'll generally group that into fire calls because we have medical and non-medical. We do provide our own ambulance service here in town, and our ambulance service is licensed to the paramedic level. So we're allowed to provide full paramedic care to our patients if we have the providers available. So so what we do is we do about, I'll throw some numbers at you, some stats. We do about an average of about 164 calls a year. That's an average over the last 5 years, and I've included 2024 as one of these years since we're pretty much done. So that's our average. That's about, one every other day. We average it out for the year, roughly. So we do about 60 to 70% of those total calls are medical type calls. Those are EMS, emergency medical calls for assistance, anything that requires an ambulance or anything that has a patient. So about 60% EMS calls and about 40% otherwise. So those can widely vary from anything from car accidents to trees down and wires down, things like that. So the last couple of years, things have been trending very slowly upward in terms of call volume, and that kind of matches generally what is being seen across the industry. I don't know of any service locally or nationally, for that matter, that is having a decrease in call volume. The emergency system is being more utilized than it ever has before, and we are part of that trend. So in the so far this year, we've done 164 calls as of last night. We had 164th call, and that is definitely up there in terms of how many calls we've done. Our top year ever so far was 179. That was last year. That's the most calls we've ever had here, which is not a lot relatively, but it's a lot for us. Just as an example, City of Bath does about 2,400 calls a year for fire and EMS there. So we're, again, not really the same, but we also have a much lower population and a different population. So that's kind of what we're doing there. So some of the types of calls that we do, so for EMS calls, and I went down and pulled out our top kind of reasons for dispatch, why we were dispatched for initially. The number one thing that we're dispatched for is falls. Apparently gravity is strong, and gravity always wins in the end. So falls are our number one medical reason to go out, followed by it's called a sick person. It's a kind of a catch-all that dispatch uses when it doesn't really fit neatly into another category. They kind of put into that one. So kind of all over the place. Any kind of syncope or near syncope, so people who feel like they're going to pass out or have actually passed out. That's a number 3. Motor vehicle crashes with injuries are number 4. And then breathing problems. So those are some of the types of calls we do, but it can be highly varied. We've had everything from my foot hurts for a week, or let's see, childbirth. We've had a couple pregnancy labor type calls. Those are very exciting calls. All the way to, difficulty breathing calls, fall down an embankment. Yeah, so we kind of do a wide variety. And being that we're, a fire and EMS combination department, we get a lot of calls for things that you wouldn't be sure that 911 would be called for. If people don't know what to do, they dial 911 and then they send the fire department. Whether we've done that before or we'll do it again in the future, who knows? So out of our fire type calls, so non-medical, not EMS type calls, our most popular ones, which you guys are not going to be surprised with these, trees down and wires down are number 1 and 2. That's what we go for most of the time. Number 3 is false alarm, and number 4, we get canceled a lot. Those are generally like residential type fire alarms, commercial fire alarms that, we start to go and then like, nope, just kidding. We actually got in touch with the landlord and you guys are all set and cancel. So those are the calls we love to have. We do try to treat every alarm type call, especially as if it's a real actual fire call, if something's actually on fire until proven otherwise, because we don't want to be caught short like that. So those are some of the types of calls that we're doing here in town, and about how many we're doing. So that it keeps us pretty busy. It can be highly variable. We'll sometimes go several days without a call, and then we can get hit with, all of a sudden we get 2 in 2 days, or we get 2 in the same day. And very rarely, but not never, we all do 2 at the same time. It doesn't happen very often for us here, and that definitely stretches our resources. But so far we've been able to handle it for the most part. We also help out our neighbors. We're on the run cards for our neighboring towns, Rouseck and Woolwich, and I believe West Bath also, but we're way down their list. So if Rouseck or Woolwich especially, will respond up there, mutual aid, mostly for fire calls. So when they have a structure fire in town, just like they come to help us, we go to help them. Our run card, if you want to say, which is the order the dispatch sends us mutual aid help, we get trucks and personnel from Rouseck, from Woolwich, from West Bath, and Bath. So when we have a building fire here in town, we get units and personnel from all of those towns come down here to help us out. So it's a real, not just our Georgetown community, but it's a whole Saginaw County mutual aid system. So they come down to help us when we need it, and we go to help them when they need it. So just last month, we sent 2 trucks over to Rouseck. They had a brush fire going, and then simultaneously, which Rouseck doesn't do simultaneous calls, just like we don't very often, they end up having a car fire, which we end up driving past to get to the brush fire. So our truck stopped and put the car fire out, while they're there. Just an example of how we help out other communities in the area that also help out us.
We have a couple questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to read them at the same time. 2 separate questions, but they go together. How many volunteers do you have on the force? Of those, how many are trained EMTs? The second part of that, and of those on the roster, how many are able to respond during the 9 to 5 work day?
Great. Good questions, which I was just about to get to the personnel bits. That was the next part of where I was going. So that is a well-timed question. I'm going to pause on the answer to that, and I'm going to get back to it, though. We can go in. I'm just going to go over a couple things, just to let you guys know what we've got for equipment, things like that. And so we've got, like I said, we're a paramedic licensed ambulance service also. So we have 2 paramedic level ambulances. Each has all the advanced equipment that we need to do and all the advanced medical treatments that are allowed under main EMS protocols. So, one of those things, one of our newest things we've added to our equipment list is our brand new Lucas CPR device. It's a mechanical device that will actually do chest compressions on an individual so that it can free up the people that would be doing it otherwise to do the other 17 things that all need to be done at the same time. So that's going to be a really big asset for us if we ever need it. Hopefully we will not need it ever, but just in case, we're going to have it. So 2 ambulances, we've got basically 3 fire trucks that are in service right now. Our main pumper engine has got 1,000 gallons of water on it and a 1,250 gallon per minute pump. It's our main fire attack engine. We use that to actually take the hose off and put the water on the fire. That engine is fed by our engine 1, carries 2,000 gallons of water, and has a 1,500 gallon minute pump. So that's our big water supply truck that sends the water to the other engine to pump it onto the fire. And then our tanker truck, which also carries 2,000 gallons of water, is our water supply truck that will shuttle water back and forth from the water point to the scene where we need it. Because as you guys know, this whole town's run on wells. We have no fire hydrants in town, and so we have to go and basically suction up water from the ponds and then drive it down around the road to the scene. Question?
I'm a little confused on the math. You said 2,000 gallon and it pumps 1,500?
1,500 a minute, that's the maximum.
Kind of run out pretty quick.
Very quickly. No, that's at max capacity. That's the maximum it can pump. We are limited by how much hose we have and how the diameter of the hose, but a regular individual running one hose is going to run a hose that's going to be at about 185 gallons a minute. And if we have 2 of those going, we're a little short of 400 gallons a minute and 1,000 gallons on the tank. It goes really fast, which is why we rely on our mutual aid partners to start shoveling water down. Woolwich is coming with 2,000 gallons of water. Rouseck has 2,000 gallons of water. West Bath has 2,500 gallons of water on their trucks. They drive to the scene, they empty it out, then we use that. They drive down the road, they pick up more water, they come back.
How much does it take to get a house fire? What sort of magnitude are you talking about?
It's a lot. 20,000 gallons of water or more, depending on the size of the house, how much is in it, what's on fire. Highly variable, but it takes an extraordinarily amount of water to put out a building on fire. So yeah, so it takes a lot of moving pieces, and we absolutely cannot do this alone. So we've got our tanker truck, our new squad pickup truck we just purchased last year. It's been a huge asset for us. It's got a bunch of our chainsaws on it. We use it for trees and wires, things like that. It's our secondary vehicle for a lot of things. Forestry, if we have extra personnel for EMS call, they're hopping in the squad truck. So it's very utilitarian. We load hose in the back, we are done with it, that kind of thing. So it's been a great asset for us. And then we carry personnel and equipment. So it has seats for five adults. Back seat is actually the largest I've ever seen. So
On that, Brian, Nancy asked, does the pump fill the truck 1,500 gallons per minute? I think she's asking how quickly the truck fills up.
No, it doesn't fill it. It actually pumps it out at that speed, so or that volume. The fill could be quite a bit less, but it depends on what diameter apparatus you're putting into it. Our suction are 6-inch around. Our supply line's a 4-inch, so it highly varies. But you can fill up a full 2,000 gallons about 5 minutes or so. If you've got everything set up ready to go, plug it in, pump it full. Unfortunately, you can't pump it too fast because the tanks in the trucks are plastic, and they can only take so much pressure at once. So yeah, good question there, and I have not forgotten Brahman's question on personnel yet. So yeah, any questions on kind of the equipment or how we're running things here? Calls? No? Okay. Moving on. So the membership. Georgetown Fire Department can't survive without our members. We have 30 people on our roster, and that's total. That includes 4 or 5 auxiliary members. We have 25 people who are classified as responders at some different level or not. So we have 25 total there. Out of those 25, 9 of them are emergency medical service folks. We have 3 paramedics, including myself and 2 others. We have 2 advanced EMTs, which is the middle license level. And we have 4 basic EMTs, which is the lower level of emergency medical technicians. So we have, like I said, 9 EMS providers, although one of our advanced is in paramedic school right now, and it'll be done hopefully early next year. So looking forward to having him license up and give us a little bit more license levels. So we have 9 EMS responders, and then out of those 25 responders also, we have 9 people who are full interior qualified firefighters. I say interior qualified, that you have to have special training and equipment to wear the breathing apparatus, self-contained breathing apparatus, air packs, to go actually into an environment full of smoke, nasty off-gas and things like that. So we have 9 people now who are qualified. That is the most we've ever had that are qualified at that level. And big kudos to all of them for going and getting that training. It's a lot of work. And it takes a lot of time, and we greatly appreciate that extra work that they put into that. So, which is not to say that the folks who are not going inside of the buildings are doing any less training. They are absolutely doing the same amount of training. It's just slightly different. We got a couple folks that used to do it; they don't want to anymore. There are 25 different things that all need to happen at the same time on a fire ground, and every single person who's there is playing a very important role. So I don't want to diminish the fact that if you're not interior, then you're not doing it, because you absolutely are. Did I get Brown's question there?
Not quite.
Okay.
Just going back to repeat it, how many are able to respond during the 9 to 5 work day?
That's a good question. And the answer is, I don't know. We are a volunteer service, so when the call comes in, which we cannot predict, whoever's available to respond and in town and local, then they can respond. But the model that we have right now is that we don't know. If you dial 911 today, I cannot guarantee how many people will show up or who will show up. It is highly variable in that way. Historically, there's always been somebody. There's always been someone to respond, and we've always got the job done in the end. But more recently, I will say that things have gotten a bit slim in that respect. We've definitely had a little bit less people responding per call generally, and unfortunately, that's an industry-wide trend. This is something that everybody is seeing the same kind of things, and we're part of that. We are very fortunate in the fact that it's taken us this long to kind of get to that point. So to answer Brown's question, how many people are available? I don't know. It varies per day, it varies per hour, or whoever's in town, whoever's available at the time. And unfortunately, the system that we have, the model that we are running right now, doesn't actually guarantee that anyone is available in town. I wish I could say for 100% sure that there definitely were people available all the time. That would be my ultimate goal, but right now we don't have that.
So Brian, how many paid staff do you have or paid firefighters on staff right now? 1.5?
No, I said, when you say paid, you mean like people who are...
So everybody else is a volunteer?
Yep.
If somebody's taking this call, that's you, right?
Yep.
But who else?
So everybody, in a very strict legal sense, everyone in the department is a paid on-call department. So when anyone responds, they get paid a flat base rate to go on that call for that time period. But when they're not on that call responding at that time, nobody's getting paid. I get paid an hourly wage to do the administrative work, to run the department and keep everything organized. And I get a different pay rate to go on a call based on our pay scale. So there is, as far as paid members, kind of everybody, but no one is being paid to be ready to respond. If
That was my question.
yeah. So
Chief, along with that and what you were saying, there's a couple people asking what happens when no one responds on the call, and with that, why do you think there is significant less people responding?
well, I guess 2 parts. So if no one responds, working on setting up an automatic system so that if we can't respond, then somebody else will. Actively working right now with the city of Bath to set up the Bath ambulance service as our automatic backup. It's not set in stone right now, but we're working towards that. And that will give us, if no one is responding from Georgetown, they'll automatically have an ambulance coming from Bath, which they're full-time. They have at least five, maybe 6 people on duty at all times. And so if they have an ambulance available and we ask for one or need one down here, they will send one. That'll give us an advanced EMT at the very least, very likely a paramedic, and at least a crew of 2 to take that EMS call. As far as fire call backup, we call usually our next closest town, which is Rousick, and have their members respond if we need to. There have been a few times where we've either had simultaneous calls or not had enough resources for the call that we were on, and we were able to call Rousick and possibly Woolwich, and we just kind of keep going up the road until we get the people and equipment we need for whatever call we're on. So,
with that as well, the arrangement with Bath, is it reciprocal that the crew respond to Bath? And if not, is there a cost to Georgetown by having Bath come?
It would not necessarily be reciprocal in that way. It's not necessarily fire is a more mutual aid where we respond with them and they respond to us, and it's kind of a back and forth that way. Less so with EMS. The city of Bath is not going to be relying on us to provide an ambulance unless they have an absolutely huge MCI type thing. They'll call for everybody kind of thing. But as far as cost goes, if Bath is set up to be our automatic backup service, there will be a cost associated with that. I don't have the exact details right now, but there will be an additional cost with that service. But the additional cost, in my opinion, is worth it because that guarantees us to have an ambulance, to have you guys have an ambulance if you need it. And yes, that is an additional cost, but I think it's entirely worth it in that way.
Actually, one more part to that. Our friend Lisa is asking really good questions. So the model we have that you're talking about that makes it more difficult to determine who would respond, is she correct in assuming a more predictable model would be to have a paid force in place? Also, with that as well, when Bath comes to town, will they bill insurance?
Yes. The second part of that, yes, if Bath comes to town, they will bill in the insurance. So whatever the individual will receive a bill from the city of Bath or their billing company, and their insurance will pay whatever part of that they pay. If there's anything remaining, that will be up to the individual to cover the difference. So that is different from our model right now. The Georgetown ambulance does not bill for services as of right now. So that is an additional cost to that individual that would be there. So, and
yeah, the other part Lisa was asking is
predictable.
Basically, our volunteers are predictable. So, would a more predictable approach be to have full-time paid force in place?
Yes, I think the answer to that is short answer is yes. To have paid staff or even on-call staff that are on call and available to respond to any call, that would absolutely make things more predictable for response. So that's not the model we have right now, and I think it'll be an excellent topic for future discussion for sure. I think that maybe is where a lot of places are going these days. We're not there now. A lot of our surrounding communities are there now, but at varying different levels. Bath is full-time. West Bath has got some per diems on duty during the day right now. Woolwich has got someone at least on call 24/7 for their ambulance service. So it's highly variable and depends on the needs of the community, the needs of the service, and whatnot. So a lot of details to work out in the meantime. Any questions in the room? Molly?
I understand that we're the only volunteer service in the state that does not charge.
Maybe not the only, but we're one of very few, like less than 5. Yep, that's true.
Can you repeat that? I don't hear.
Sorry.
What don't we charge for?
We don't charge for ambulance billing, ambulance services. So the cost of the ambulance, the cost of the fire services, all the services that this department provides the town is covered 100% by the town tax budgets.
Actually, Nancy would like to know why. Why doesn't Georgetown bill insurance?
We never have. Short answer. It's never have. And that's, yeah.
Ryan, do you have the capability to bill insurance? Let's say you showed up at my house, I fell off my chicken coop, and you said you have insurance, and I'd say, yes, bill my insurance. You don't want the town to pay for this.
We don't have that capability right now.
Okay.
That's not something we have built into our system, so we don't have that ability. But I'm actively looking into it as an option. I'm not saying we're definitely doing that, but we are looking into it as something that we may do in the future. At least that way I'll have better answers to questions later on.
Why would you not?
Why not?
Yeah, assume you build the insurance company, you get whatever you get, the rest of it's free.
That's a definite possibility, and that's a model that I would be very supportive of. We could do that if that's how it worked out in the end. If that's what everyone wants to decide that we want to do, then we can do that. But unfortunately, we don't have that right now. So I've heard anecdotally in the past that there's a lot of people very proud that our service doesn't charge anything extra. So the costs are shared that way by the entire community equally. Everyone's supporting the service through their tax dollars. And so it's a bit different that way.
If we were to move in that direction, my assumption is we would have to hire someone to do billing.
Yep.
Am I correctly understanding that?
Yeah, we could do it internally, but the extra costs associated with that it's just much simpler to hire a billing company. So yes, we would do that. They would take a percentage of the collection off the top, and then the rest would come to the town to offset the cost of the service. So yeah.
Of the 25 responders, do you understand how the load gets split?
Not well. There are definitely people who show up more often than others. When that's for a wide variety of factors. Are they retired? Do they have a job during the day? We have some folks that don't make many calls, but as an example, I'm not going to use any names, but if you have kids at home and you work full time, you don't work in Georgetown, then the time that you're available in town is much less than someone who is retired and not out of town very often and is willing to come out. So the load is not shared equally right now. We try to make it as fair as we can, but it's tough because the calls come in when they come in. There's no predictability to it necessarily. I mean, you can't predict that when it snows really heavy, we're going to get some tree limbs come down. That's pretty predictable, but that's about it. So
Lisa brought a good point on here. She obviously said it's a wonderful service Georgetown provides, but she has heard people say that when you call the ambulance, you get a fast ride to the hospital to get taken right in. One, is that true? And two, she wonders if calls would be reduced because there was a cost insurance consequence built in.
So I would hope that no one would be hesitant to call 911 because there was a cost. I really hope personally that is not how that would happen. As far as a fast ride to the hospital, yeah, we'll get you there safely and efficiently. What happens in the hospital, I make absolutely no promises about. They have their system set up their way, and as far as I understand it, this is from 12 years of working in this field, that you were seen at the hospital based on your condition, your presentation, and whatever else is going on. So an ambulance ride to the hospital does not guarantee you're seen faster. But again, I don't make promises what happens after you leave the ambulance. So that's we have to control our own little world here.
Elaine would like to know, what about residents who don't have insurance? They would still receive our services.
They would absolutely still receive our services, 100%. There's almost every other service I've ever worked for or known of has a mechanism built in that if there's a financial hardship and you're not able to pay whatever bill that you receive, or if you don't have insurance or whatnot, there's always a mechanism for working through that. whether that's written off, whether that is payment plans. It highly varies, and those are things that can be worked out in the details later on. Any questions right now?
How many responders does it take to actually take a truck out or take an ambulance out? And you actually get out on scene and assess it with like 2 people?
Yeah, generally 2 is the minimum. But yeah, 2 people, you need 1 to take care of the patient in the back and 1 to drive. That's kind of the bare minimum for an EMS type call. But if we have more, then we'll always take more people on the call. If we show up with 5 people, I think that's wonderful. Then 1 person can deal with the patient, 1 person can get the truck situated. We have 2 people to help carry gear and equipment, and it's just much more efficient that way. So, but yeah, 2 is the bare minimum, and we usually have that, but we don't always have that. We do have the addition of, we contract with Midcoast Hospital. They have a paramedic fly car with a paramedic on it that we can call. They're usually in the Bath, Woolwich area. So if we need a paramedic, if we have a advanced EMT or basic EMT that needs, or they have a patient that needs paramedic level care or evaluation, we can call them. They will come down in the fly car, and then they can hand off the patient care to that paramedic. We'll then take the patient to the hospital in our ambulance. So that is a service that we contract with. They're actually Midcoast Hospital employees, and that's where they're kind of based out of. But they're not Georgetown Fire Department members, but this is a service that they use. Unfortunately, we do share them with a few other communities. So they respond to Woolwich, Pittsburgh, and they do help out the city of Bath on big events, things like that. So we do have that also.
So they actually come down, they would come down.
They come down, yep.
Is there a possibility of telemedicine if an EMT needs advice on quickly?
Not tele, but, or at least not video-wise. Any EMS provider can call the doctor on call at the hospital. That's our medical control. That's kind of our boss of bosses. So if you get something you need questions on, you can pick up the phone and call them and speak to them, and they can help you work through it or give you direction, things like that. So we don't have the ability for interactive video like this, at least not now. Maybe in the future. Question in the back?
Has there been a time when there's been a call and no one has responded, and what has happened then?
Yeah, we did have that happen. It happened kind of recently. It happened this fall, actually. First time that I've ever known that there's been a call for in Georgetown, and we've had no responders. That did happen earlier this year because of our excellent partners up at Dispatch Center in Bath. They had MC1, the paramedic, come down in the fly car initially as the initial responder, and they got on scene and realized that there's not an ambulance here, and I don't have an ambulance. They just have a Tahoe they're driving in. So they called for Bath to come down with their ambulance, and then the Bath crew took them to the hospital. So that's how it was handled right now. So thankfully our partners and our neighboring communities and things like that took the initiative and were able to make it work in the end. But that's why we're working on setting up Bath as an automatic, so that this kind of thing is it's a set piece. So that if A doesn't happen, then B happens, and then things go right down the road, and no one's wondering what should we do in that situation. So that's what we're working on with that.
2 more questions. Previously, Lisa asked, did the drier year have an impact on our fresh water resource? I'm assuming that's in reference to filling up our tankers.
The answer to that is not really. We have 3 different dry hydrants in town, and a dry hydrant is a 6-inch PVC pipe that's been basically plumbed into a pond. We have one down just down the street here in West Georgetown. You see a little shack right on the edge of the pond. That's got one of our dry hydrants there. There's another one down on Pond Road off of Beaver Valley, and another one down at Charles Pond. So those are our 3 main sites right now, and so that's where we'd have to be driving from to wherever the call was to fill up our water. As far as water supply, it was a really dry fall, but the levels in all the ponds seem to hold up reasonably well. and our inlets are low enough in the water that even a couple inch difference in the level is not really going to affect it that much. So in that way, we're kind of fortunate. We don't have a really dry summer is not going to seriously affect our water in that way.
Tyler also, he didn't really have a question, he just wanted this addressed about services we provide to other islands in town, such as McMahon, or Malden, et cetera.
It's no different. I mean, McMahon and Malden are part of Georgetown, so it's all part of the same area. We're running all the same services. Unfortunately, to the islands, we don't have a reliable ability to get there right now. Fire department does not have an in-service watercraft right now, and we're looking into the best solution for that going forward. Unfortunately, we haven't come up with a good solution yet. So, but historically, at least in the past, as far as I know, and I've not had to do this personally, so this is anecdotal, but you know, we've had to rely on shuttles or private boats to get the patient or get to the patient, to have the patient come to us, things like that. You know, being a resourceful community down here on the island, we've always made it work in the end. Somehow, they've always figured it out, and we get the job done. But it's kind of a flying by the seat kind of thing, right, in the moment. So, but we do it, so.
I don't know if you want to talk about ongoing training that we all get.
Sure, I can address that. So ongoing training is continuous. We meet every month, and for at least a meeting amongst the department, kind of keep up on info and things like that. And we do at least 3 other training nights a month. And it's an evening or morning for a couple hours. We have at least 2 different fire trainings. We do one on Monday evenings and another one on a Saturday morning for those who can't make Mondays. And we do at least 1 EMS training a month in-house. There's also other training opportunities in the local area and kind of in the general Mid-Coast area for kind of anything you want to. Pittsburgh does regular EMS trainings every month, so that's really convenient for us. And yeah, but everyone has to do, you know, a minimum amount of training, things like that, so they just stay fresh on their skills and their knowledge. Just fortunately for us, we don't do a lot of calls. And that's good, because that means someone's having a bad day if we're going on call. But that is the training that we do that much more important, because that's when we get our hands-on practice our skills, practice our knowledge.
We have access to Dr.
Yep, we are our medical director, Dr. Kelly Meehan Kusei, has been a great asset for us. She's actually coming down next month and doing some training in-house for us. So that's a great asset for us. We can always access that pretty much anytime we need to, so. Yeah.
Are volunteers paid for those training hours, I would assume?
They are.
Is it like at the same rate that they would for a call?
Yep.
And what if someone wanted to join? Does the town pay for basic EMT school, advanced EMT school?
Absolutely. Yep, anyone who wants to join, we have always paid for any training that is required, or one for that matter. So EMT classes, firefighting classes, and yeah, those are kind of the big ones. They're not super expensive, but it's mostly, it's the hardest part is the time commitment for all of this stuff for the individual. For us, it's kind of on the easy side. We have money built into the budget for training, specifically for training, and if we ever run low on that, I will absolutely find more money for training, because that is the most important thing we can be doing.
Actually, Brian, a question to your point. Allison asked, and I think you kind of answered this before, but in reference to mutual aid, I think the point that she's asking, are these members in training, are they trained on vehicles, the apparatuses in the department?
Yep. Yeah, that's part of the training. So we'll usually pick a topic or to train on, and so you know, for that evening, and so yeah, everyone has to know where the equipment is on the vehicles, how to use all that equipment in a safe and effective manner. So we try to spread it out a little bit. We'll do ladders one night, and a different night we'll go over chainsaws. A different night we'll go over hose deployments. Different night we'll go over pumping, things like that. So that, you know, there's all these aspects, so that everyone kind of gets familiar. And so they are trained on the vehicles, they're trained on the equipment. We got some people that, don't, they can run the hose, but they don't know how to drive the truck or operate the pump. It can be kind of complicated. So again, the emphasis on training and keeping fresh on our skills and knowledge is really important for us. Yeah.
What kind of training do you need to drive the ambulance or a firefighter vehicle?
A little bit different. So the ambulance is the kind of training we do most of that in-house. It's not like it's not like a class necessarily, but probably at least several hours worth of driving the ambulance. It's a big vehicle. It's kind of top heavy, and it takes practice to drive it around. So make sure you can safely operate the vehicle itself. Backing it up's a big skill. You have to back up with your mirrors around corners, and probably a third of our calls are at night. So backing up in the dark in someone's driveway you've never been into before. That's where we end up practicing the vehicles. Other ambulance training is where the equipment is on the truck. So even if you're not an EMT, you can be very, very helpful on an EMS call. Say, hey, I need that orange bag out of that compartment over there, and you know what it is and where it is. At the very least, that is incredibly helpful. So just familiarization with the trucks, the equipment, where things are. As far as driving the fire trucks, very similar. There's a bit more of a formal training program for that. We get, as employees or members of the fire department, we have a municipal exemption for vehicles with air brakes. It's one of the things we get. If Joe Schmo wanted to drive a fire truck or a size vehicle like that, they have to get a commercial driver's license. We don't have to do that, but we do our special training program, which gives us that training with large vehicles, air brakes. Again, these are heavy, heavy vehicles. Two of our trucks carry 2,000 gallons of water at 8 pounds or so a gallon. A lot of weight. Very top heavy, very tippy, and so it does take a lot of practice, hands-on training. We've got a couple people recently that have expressed interest in joining, so in the next, hopefully a couple months to a year, we'll get them going on some things. So you guys will probably see us out driving around town more often than we have been recently, which, yes, that's burning up fuel, but it is absolutely necessary to make sure they know what's going on. So,
Nancy would like to know what kind of physical fitness requirements are there for volunteers?
Well, generally, if you're physically fit enough to do it, then you can you can join. For firefighting, interior firefighting specifically, you do need to get an okay by your doctor, at least initially. And if you're going to do SCBA and be interior qualified, there's a respiratory component to that to make sure that you are healthy enough to, wear air breathing apparatus and things like that. So otherwise, if you can, be relatively mobile, I'd say lifting them up to 50 pounds. Sometimes we have patients that can't walk and they're on the second floor, and we need to make sure we get them safely for them and safely for us off the second floor, down the stairs, out the house, across the driveway, into the ambulance safely. So it can be very physically demanding at times, and that's just on the EMS call, and the firefighting stuff is even more physically demanding than that. A lot of rushing around, a lot of heavy equipment, heavy gear. It can be a lot. So it's not necessarily for the faint of heart, but we can usually work with any individual who has any kind of limitation whatsoever. We can find a place if they need to, so. Yeah.
You talked about an auxiliary. How does that fit in? How are the responsibilities for that?
Yeah, so the Georgetown Volunteer Fire Department so the Georgetown Fire Department and the Georgetown Volunteer Fire Department are kind of two separate organizations. If you go way, way back in the inception of the fire department in Georgetown, the Georgetown Volunteer Fire Department was a completely separate entity from the town for a very, very long time. It was only until very recently that we've kind of been absorbed into the town structure and we're technically town employees and things like that. So to the point on the auxiliary, the auxiliary was a separate fundraising arm of the GVFD, and they did primarily fundraising and supporting the main mission of the fire department. The auxiliary used to run the auction back in the day. That was kind of their big one, big fundraiser for the year. Sent out the appeal letter and things like that. They still do the spaghetti supper right now. And so the auxiliary at this point right now is doing fundraising around and just raising money to help support the fire department in whatever way they can. Right now, since our operating budget is covered by the town, their primary role is to help us fund things like plaques and awards, food for trainings. They have been willing to come out if we have a long-term event. They will help organize meals and waters and things like that. So they're kind of in a supportive role, but yeah, so if anyone wants to help out in that way, we can definitely find a place for folks who want to help out.
And how does the volunteer fire department or the Georgetown Fire Department intersect with the emergency management?
Well, we're gonna kind of a seamless transition right now, since our emergency management director is also a member of the fire department. So that makes things easier. And that's Mike McDermott in the back there. And so as far as EMA goes, Mike is kind of our point person to EMA, SAG EMA, and whatnot. But as far as, planning for emergencies and that kind of thing, he kind of takes the point on that, and I can help him out and supplant whatever information he needs there. So hope that answers your question. Okay.
So just thinking, I'm not sure my numbers are exactly right here, but I think you said there were 8 EMTs that we have there.
We have 9 right now.
Okay,
Yep.
absolutely. So call out, and none of those 9 people show up for an EMS call.
Yep.
People show up.
Yep.
That can drive a truck, and what happens in that scenario?
So in that scenario right now, if we have no EMS responder for Georgetown respond, as long as we get somebody to drive the ambulance, whoever's there will call for MC1, and the paramedic will come down from wherever they're at, and the paramedic will take care of the patient, and then the driver will assist with whatever they can and drive the ambulance. So that's what we have right now. It is an imperfect system, and it's not my favorite way to do things, but it does get the patient the treatment and the care that they need in a timely fashion. So
What would be a step more comfortable?
more comfortable is to have at least a Georgetown EMS responder. If it's an EMT basic and the call requires things that are above their license level, they will be calling MC1 anyway for that. So that'd be really my best case scenario. At least we'll have at least 1 Georgetown driver and 1 EMS responder from Georgetown in a perfect world.
Is there an age limit restriction?
Nope. If you can do the job, then you can do the job.
Age.
Well, actually, there is one age restriction. It's 18. You have to be at least 18 years old. Some departments do have a junior program for kids under 18. We don't have that right now. We haven't had the need for it yet. Maybe we will in the future. That'd be wonderful. But we don't have that right now. So at least 18. So top age limit, though? No. All right, so went over members, went over response a little bit, and I think this discussion has been great so far, so thank you guys for participation, because there's nothing worse than me standing up here and you all not saying anything. I'm actually gonna have Patrick here. This is Patrick Brown. He's one of our kind of newer, 2 years now? 2 years now? Yeah, year?
Probably feels like 2 to you, but.
Yeah. Anyway, so Patrick's one of our newer members, and I'm just gonna have him kind of give me a little bit of what his experience has been, and kind of how that's worked out for you, so if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So like the chief said, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Patrick Brown. In January, I will have been on the department for about a year. And in that year, as some of you guys asked, and as thank you. And as Brian said, in that year, I relicensed as an EMT and became a firefighter interior certified, which I did not pay for. Well, that's not true. I did, I was reimbursed by the town. Okay, so it doesn't cost you anything. But just a little bit about me to give context. I'm a super busy guy. I have a business I run. I have 2 beautiful girls. I have a wife, too many dogs, a big house I don't want to take care of. Okay, so I have a lot going on at all times. And so my good friend Jaylene over here, for years she kept telling me, she's like, dude, join the department. You'll love it. It's great. I think it's for you. And I just said, I can't. I don't have enough time. Well, I gave in, and I'm glad I did because I love it. This town here has been really, really good to me and my family. And it's really, really nice to give back by being trained by the department to have a couple of skills and really help this community. So my experience has been wonderful. Now, as the chief said, do I get to go on every call? Nope. Would I like to? Nope. But I go on quite a few, right? We go on as many as we can. And I'm so glad so many of you showed up today because we'd really love to see more members. You know, we kind of have some pride in the town we live in where the townspeople take care of the town, right? So the chief's been talking about, you know, the city of Bath coming in MC1. It's always good to have backup, but if we can do it all on our own with our own people, that would be pretty great. Did that kind of answer what you were looking for?
Yeah, give me one thing that you really like about being on the fire department.
My mustache is pretty sweet.
Used to be a beard.
The first day I met Brian, I had a beard. I went home, looked in the mirror, I had a mustache. I don't know what, no, I'm teasing. The fire departments, I guess community is a really good way of putting it. Being on the fire department, like, you know, we're all friends. You know, we all work hard, and when we get together, we can have a life. But there's not like a single person on the department I don't trust to have my back if I'm in a burning building, or to call me out if I'm not doing something correctly in the ambulance, right? So that real sense of bonding and community, we have a shared goal, take care of the town, you know, and I don't think you can get that in a lot of other organizations because it can be so, I mean, it's intense sometimes, you know, if you think someone's dying, it's not necessarily fun. You know, we don't want anybody to die. It's a lot. So yeah, that sense of community is pretty cool.
All right, and one thing that you wish someone had told you before you joined, that you found out later. Put you on the spot.
Okay, you did, because I don't have an answer. Give me a second. Something I wish I knew before I joined.
How about that you get the itch? You'd be stuck with us forever.
Okay, that's a great point. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I wish I knew that once you're in, you're stuck. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not trapped. But I think once you do it, I don't think you're quitting. You know what I mean? Even if you don't really like it. But actually, I will say one thing to that, because someone talked about physical fitness. I mean, I think I'm also the youngest guy on the department. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, second. I'm the youngest male, excuse me, okay? I'm definitely one of the younger guys on the department. And I've always maintained a relatively good level of health. You know, I try to eat right and exercise. But when you do this job, you actively want to be better. So it has improved my health as well. I work out a little bit harder. You know, it's not easy lifting people that can't lift themselves. And when, like Brian was talking about, wearing the air pack into a fire, that sucks. I mean, it's like 40 pounds. You know what I mean? It's not easy. You could do it, but you gotta condition yourself. So, do I wish I knew that? No, but it's helpful, you know?
Okay. All right,
Feel
thanks.
good? Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Patrick. And if Meg, would you mind? That's kind of Meg the same thing. So this is Meg McDermott, and she's also one of our
relatively newer members, 3 years?
Yeah, I think 4 years, I
Three or
think.
4 years now?
Yeah.
So what brought you into the department, Meg? What made you think about joining? What did you like when you got in and you're like, oh wow, this is good? Like, what was your story?
All right, so let's see. So I did join about 4 years ago. It was when COVID hit, and I was suddenly working from home because I worked full-time, and I continue to work full-time, but I always worked off the island. And then with COVID, I was working from home, and my youngest child was graduating high school, and I thought, I'm in town a little bit more, and I have a little bit less responsibilities. Maybe I could join the department, and actually didn't know how to. So I had to figure out how to even get in touch with someone in the department. And very, very quickly was just welcomed in 100% and had a wonderful mentor who's hiding behind the TV screen right now, so I can't see her. But Sharon Trebona was super welcoming and friendly and made me feel like part of the group immediately. And so even with no training, never having done anything like it before, very quickly I felt useful, which was, kind of nice.
Yep.
So I got EMT training first. I went through that and became a certified EMT. And then more recently, I went through the firefighter training. So I'm now an interior firefighter. And I have to say that is something I never thought I would do. It was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, and I bet I did it. So it was a real, it was personally satisfying to realize that something I thought I would never be able to do, I could actually do. I sort of hope to never have to go into a burning building, but I know I can do it if I have to. So that's personally very satisfying. And it helps the town, because if your house is on fire, I will go in it. So I guess the thing I get the most out of it is it's very satisfying to feel like on someone's worst day, I was able to help them through it. I don't make it better, but I can help them get through it. And I like that. That feels very satisfying. And I guess if anything, if someone had told me that I should do it earlier than I did. I should have looked into doing it while I was still working off the island, while I still had 3 kids at home. Because even if I only had a couple hours a week to give, I could give that. So maybe I wish I had started earlier.
That's my answer.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, do you guys have any questions for Patrick or Meg? Or me? Okay. All right, thanks.
Sure.
So I guess the next little bit here, guys, I don't want to keep everyone too late tonight, but the next one is like from you all, or everyone out on Zoom here. What do you guys expect? Is there anything you guys expect from us as a department? Any expectations that you have now that you didn't have before when you came in tonight, or maybe something that what do you have any preconceived notions? I mean, did you guys know that we have EMT basics and advanced and paramedics? We have 3 different license levels, and there's a lot of variation between them. Is that something you guys are aware of, or?
While you guys are thinking, do you mind, Chief, another question?
Sure.
From Elaine, does the Georgetown Fire Department have a protocol to treat the EMTs and/or firefighters if they get injured on call?
We do. We do have we have a rehab protocol for fires, especially because it's so physically demanding that you rotate people in and out of the actual real work. And usually at least one group of people who are there who are just resting because they just did all of the hard work. So we do have a protocol set up for that. If someone gets hurt doing their job on a call, it's like any other type of workman's comp thing. If you slip and fall in the parking lot of your job, it's all the same kind of stuff. So It's pretty boring in the details, I'd say, but we do have a way to handle that, so. Hope that answered the question there. Yes?
I came in a little late, so you might cover this. What other capacities are you looking for volunteers to do, other than going on call?
Well, that's our primary one, because that's our primary role. So ideally, for new folks, we're looking for responders, whether that's in any capacity, it varies, but particularly EMS and fire response, that's the bread and butter. But if people want to help out, we could probably find a role for anyone who has time and the ability and the willingness to have, to help us out. So administratively, I could use some help in the office, getting things organized, paperwork type stuff. I've learned a lot my first couple of years here as the chief. Yeah, that would be helpful there. The auxiliary is always looking for new members to help with the fundraising events. Specifically, I know that it's always a chore to get folks to be like, all right, I need to give them a little bit extra time and get things organized. And as anyone who's ever organized any kind of event, everyone knows how difficult that is to corral people and get tasks assigned, things like that. So we can, if someone's interested, please feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the department for that matter, and we can figure it out. Yeah.
Traffic control and scene support.
Yeah, traffic control, scene support. If you want to show up on calls and not necessarily do firefighting or do EMS, even if, like I said, for helping out in the ambulance, just to know where the stuff is, be able to grab the equipment and bring it to myself, Patrick, or anyone who's there, that is hugely helpful. We can, if it's just the two of us, we'll figure it out, we'll get it done, but it's going to take longer. Many hands make light work, so.
So that was my question, what Bob said. So you could have somebody come in and say, I might have 4 hours a week, but so where do you most need me?
Yep.
And so it might be what Bob said, or what you just said, administrative help.
Yeah, I mean,
or just to be, a floater and come in if they can respond.
Yep.
That's, Saturday at 5 a.m. because that's not their work day.
Yeah.
They just show up and you put them to work.
Yeah, if they're come to a call and whatever their skill set is, we will find a place for them either on the call or whatnot. So we'll definitely take it. So, yeah. So anything. Sorry, go ahead.
How do you deal with the maintenance of all the machinery and equipment?
With the maintenance.
The machinery,
Oh,
and whatever else.
Oh, the equipment maintenance, things like that. Trying to work on setting up an annual maintenance schedule so that things are regularly checked of all our small engines. Unfortunately, and fortunately for us, the biggest problem we have is our things don't get used enough. As anyone who ever has anything mechanical, small engines, large engines, vehicles, they have to be used. If they sit and not get used, things wear out, things weirdly break even though you don't touch them for a long time. And so, yeah, that's kind of our main problem is to actually get them out used more. So set up a program that Patrick was working on for a while there where every week all the trucks get checked to make sure all the equipment is where it should be. It's in good running condition. Drives the vehicles once a month. Takes them on a loop around town just to exercise the wheels and gaskets and things like that. So
Anything that needs to be repaired and refurbished, whatever is in-house or sent out somewhere?
It depends. If it's small enough that we can figure it out in-house, then we'll do that. We send out a lot of stuff though that are beyond our capabilities, whether it's equipment or technology, things like that. So it highly varies. Depends. Our engine 3 was out of service. It was up in Gardner for about 2 months, and that's because it needed a new transmission cooler in the radiator, and it's absolutely beyond our means to do. Turns out you have to take the entire cab up off the truck to get to the radiator on this vehicle, and also the radiator had to be rebuilt from scratch because they don't make it anymore. So that's one of the things we had to send out recently. Our chainsaws, we take them over to New Brunswick for their service there, that kind of thing. So small maintenance things like I can sharpen a chain on chainsaw if I had to. I try to fix what I can. We can do as much as we can in-house, but
Regarding expectations, I have a comment, which is, my sister was Ann Webster. She used your services on a frequent basis.
Mm-hmm.
My mother used your services when she was living, and my dad used the services when he was living. I mean, you continue to exceed my expectations.
I'm glad for that.
Every day. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel blessed.
I have been told other times that people seem they're very, very happy and fortunate that it's their neighbors. Like when you guys call 911, it's us, it's your friends, it's your neighbors, it's people sometimes you know them, sometimes you recognize them from town, but we are literally your neighbors, and that is kind of really special. That is one of the most special things we have here in this town, and I'm really fortunate that you guys have entrusted me with this for now, to keep doing this, because really appreciate to do that, and very, very happy to.
I just wondered if you accept volunteers who are seasonal?
We do. We have at least one person right now who's pretty much only around in the summer, and even then it's not for very long. But when they're here in town, they come to the calls that they can. And our call volume does bump up slightly in the summertime. Probably not as much as you think it does, but it does a little bit. And so yeah, we can do seasonal if that's what works. And it's, if they can still, know what the equipment is, know how to use the equipment and whatnot, and we can work with that to make sure that they're up to snuff on what's going on, and yeah, absolutely.
Is there any consistent pattern of days and hours during the days when responses are needed?
Not really, no. Short answer is not really, and but the more detailed answer is, I was trying to pull stats for our calls for this meeting, and the system we have is very difficult to pull that kind of information from, but I was able to figure out that our calls are slightly clustered around about 8 to 10 in the morning and like 4 to 5 in the evening. We had to have a very slight increase in calls during those hours, but it's otherwise really actually spread out across the day, and not just the daytime, but the 24-hour period. So now we don't have a strong morning preference for calls around here.
Heavier at night, for instance?
Not significantly, no. Or day of the week, or time of the year necessarily. Again, a small bump in the summertime, but not quite as much. So. All right.
The different levels of EMS, how long approximately does training take for those steps?
So for the first step, which is the EMT basic, it's about a 6-month program, or a semester, like a college semester type length of program. So is it a couple nights or a night or two a week, or a lot of them doing hybrid right now. So you'll do your online, learning, and then you go to wherever they're usually the lab, whatever they're going to do their skills testing for like a day a week or a couple hours kind of thing. So about 6 months-ish for EMT basic. That's another about 6 months-ish for advanced EMT. And for paramedic right now, it's about 18 months, which can be done while you're working full-time. I was working full-time when I went to paramedic school. It's a lot. It's not just class time, but it's clinical time where you're running on other ambulance services, you're doing hours in the hospital and things like that. So right now those programs, mine was about a year, but they're up to 18 months now for the same thing, which is just, actually it's better that it's spread out a little bit more. So it's a little easier on the individual, the day-to-day kind of thing. So so it can be quite intensive, but as Patrick can allude to, or Meg, everyone's working full-time when doing this. It's definitely doable, but it can be a lot, for sure. Anything else there, Patrick, or no? All right. So I guess one last thing for you guys, is there anyone that wants to share anything of like how you all have been impacted by the department, or or know that anyone that's been impacted? I mean, you said that we've helped out your family quite a bit, and I'm very glad to hear that, because that's something that I take a lot of pride in. John?
Yeah, I'd like to share a few ideas. My name is John Hance. I've been, oops, let me get around here. I've been on the fire department 43 years. I say with sort of a smile, that's more than half my life. Wow. And at a certain point, I scaled back on my collateral duties and handed a lot of things to other people within the department. And I stayed on as the fire department safety officer. So I try my best when we have a motor vehicle accident or a structure fire to make sure everybody goes home with both eyes and all their fingers. Simple way to say it, be safe. But there's no doubt in anybody's mind, we need you, we need help in our department. We need people to step up and do just what the chief and the gang have been telling you the last hour. And especially, we need medical people. When we have a structure fire, thank goodness for West Bath and Woolwich and Arousing, and those guys come and gals come crashing down with those engines, and we hear the sirens. And we're really pleased to have mutual aid, but we need you to go back and tell your neighbors, we need medical people. And almost anybody can do it, almost anybody. But what I'd like to say, we have a few collateral duties where we're doing our best to reach out to the public. And one thing I started years ago with a lot of help from the department was making Christmas wreaths for all of our school children. We did that for about 8 or 9 years, and that was the point I passed it on to another firefighter, and he did it for a couple of years, got sick and had to drop it, and the program fell apart. We tried to bring it back this year, but it just simply takes too much work. We need help. We need help from other committees, and I've been sort of working on that. I joined the recreation committee, and I'm staying as busy as I can, and I'm doing pretty good, I think, in most cases. But, so the wreath project for the school children, we'll pick that up eventually when we get enough people, we get help from the public, we'll do it again. Every one of our school children will be able to make a wreath and take it home. But something I did this year, I drove over 300 miles looking for good farms that had pumpkins. And I made, in the Waldoboro area, you get off Route 1, and there are farmlands you wouldn't believe, and they are growing lots of pumpkins. I had 2 or 3 major farms say yes, almost surely. Almost surely, we can give you pumpkins. However, right around the corner, Fairwinds Farm up on 201, just past Department of Motor Vehicles, or motor registration rather, out on 201 about 2 miles, Fairwinds Farm gave us 75 of the best pumpkins I've ever seen. So it just takes a little work. The fire department, we took our new brush truck up, loaded the pumpkins on board, brought them down to the school, and made all our children pretty happy with a pumpkin. But that's your fire department working. Just a little step we take. And we're asking Ask your neighbors, help us out. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John. That's it's definitely a piece of what we're trying to do here. I mean, yeah, we're here to respond, but also to keep in touch with the community and try to keep these the things that we've done for a long time going. It's increasingly difficult. Like John said, we tried to do Reese this year. It didn't happen. We don't have the people with the extra time around their training, the calls, and their regular lives, which is really most of what they're doing. Unfortunately, we don't have the people with that kind of time right now. And I hopefully we'll be able to bring these things back. If we get more people, we can spread this stuff out a little bit more and be able to reintroduce these things again. It's a really fun thing to do, and we really like to do it. We can if we will if we can. So, any question?
I just wanted to say thank you to the fire department because I go to Central School, and when you guys make comments for us, it makes all of us really happy.
I'm really glad to hear that. Really glad to hear that. Sorry?
Can you repeat what Amelia said?
Yeah, Amelia was is a student at Georgetown School, and she was very, very thankful for the pumpkins we were able to provide because it makes everybody really happy there, and that brings us so much joy to be able to do that for everyone that it's really, really nice. So thank you.
I want to say hi. I'm the regional medical director for what's new to be, soon to cover Saginaw County. So I drove down from Rome in Kennebec County. My name is Tim Bay. I started with Georgetown Fire Department and ambulance 30 plus years ago when I was 18 and went to med school because of this place. So I'm really proud of you guys. It's exactly the way I remember it, right? People getting hooked to this, getting stuck in medicine, giving hours and hours, serving their community, doing things they didn't realize they could do. You live on an island. You don't have a lot of backup. So you have to give, because otherwise you're all alone. Even if you set this system up, you're just too far away from your backup not to have everybody give a little. But can I also give some systems, because part of my med school, becoming a physician, becoming an EMS physician, this is really what I do now. My fly car is right out there. I drove down. I work doing first response as a doctor, but I also spend a lot of time helping small towns figure out how to sustain a 911 response. There's no guarantee somebody's coming. It's not an essential service. There's a guarantee that police is coming. There's actually statute that says you have to have a fire department. There is nothing that says you have to have a 911 medical response. So my advice would be, I did some calculations of what you have. You have 9 members. I'm sure that only a handful of those 9 members are actually the ones coming most of the time. Most agencies, about 40% of the calls is 1 or 2 people. That's 1 twisted ankle, 1 sore back, and you have dropped your capacity dramatically. So it is wonderful, healthy, incredible amount of volunteerism that you have here. Do not take it for granted. That is just a hair from collapsing, just to be totally candid and brutally honest to you. You do not have a lot of backup. You really don't. So my advice coming from a systems level, start planning. Start planning for paying for somebody to be here 24/7 and pay them to do it. Make it their living. You got people here that would probably shift to doing this full time. We did it in Rome and Belgrade. We've done it in Oakland. We've seen this. We saw it coming. We planned over 5 years. We made a financial commitment as a community to pay the taxes and guarantee that somebody's available. So putting numbers to this, just to start, you don't even charge. I can't believe you don't charge. So the average cost of an ambulance ride is how much? It's about $1,000, okay? How much does your insurance, if you're lucky enough to have insurance, reimburse for that if they were to plan for it? Conservatively, they probably plan on seeing $400. 20% of those 174 calls, You don't transport, you can't charge. 20% of the time, the person doesn't need to go on average. I don't know what it is here. So plan on $400, 150 calls per year. Do the math, that's about $60,000 that you could bring into this if you started charging, okay? $60,000 divided by 365 is how much a day? It's like $150 a day-ish, if I did my math right. So all of a sudden, without much investment, maybe you paid some folks to be available, right? 24 hours for a certain stipend, a little more than you're doing now. That is not a sustained system. It's just getting used to starting the planning of paying for a 911 system, right? Which you have to do. You're on an island. You don't have a choice, right? Volunteerism is not, this is a unicorn, right? I mean, a unicorn. Like, this is not what's happening the rest of the state. So the advice here would be start planning, figure out what it costs to pay somebody, think about having somebody available. Usually towns like you were alluding to at West Bath and Woolwich, they start by paying 7 hours, right? At whatever it costs for an EMT, $25 an hour-ish. Should be more, but maybe that's where you start. It's probably $30 an hour for a paramedic if that's what you want. And then you realize that then has to go to 10 hours a day, and then 12 hours a day, and finally 24 hours a day to have it guaranteed somebody's coming. Start planning. It takes a long time. Make it little bite sizes, because you have an incredible chief here. I mean, that presentation was golden, right? But you're relying on a unicorn. There's no guarantee another leader is coming behind him that's just as good, right? So please think about this, start talking about it, get ready to make this investment. It's a lot of money, but you've relied on volunteerism for decades. Beautiful volunteerism, but it's not gonna last. Sorry. So, how's that for a little?
Thank you, Dr. Gray. That was really helpful. I mean it. Not being sarcastic at all. That was great. But like Dr. Pei said, we are highly unique in that way, that we still don't charge, that we are relying on a volunteer system still to this day. Across the state, across the region, even locally here in our immediate area, we are the outliers for sure. But that is also a testament to this community, that we've been able to do this like this for so long. And I'm very, very fortunate that you guys have entrusted me with doing this now, and hopefully taking this department, this town, to the next steps, whatever that might be. That's partly why we're here tonight, is to start this conversation. That was my number one goal for this entire evening, entire event, was to start this conversation, to get people thinking about this, so that we can make the decisions in a nice, controlled manner and not have to do knee-jerk reactions because all of a sudden something's an emergency. We can plan for this. We can do things moving forward that in a nice, controlled manner. So, yeah. If anyone has any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns.
I just got one final thing, very short.
Okay, short, John.
In relation to the pumpkins, I got business cards for the Fairwinds Farm up on 201. Turns out they've got fields and all kinds of different sales and flea markets and what have you. But if you see a Fairwinds Farm stand, go in and thank them for the 75 pumpkins and buy something. And I'll be at the door and I'll pass out their cards. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Yes, Bob. Come on up here.
Georgetown Fire Department.
Here you
I've been a member for 20 some odd years. I got involved with it one morning. I volunteered at the Maine Maritime Museum. And I was going into the Maritime Museum. Everybody knows where the turtle is, on 127. I came over that little hill, and it was wintertime, and there was black ice. And my car flipped over. And the ambulance crew showed up, threw me in the ambulance, took me in a hospital. Fortunately, there was no major injuries. But since that day, I was with the fire department. If you look at the trucks, especially the new squad that we got, there's a slogan on there: neighbors helping neighbors. We're a small town, we're about 1,200 people year-round. And I may not know you, you may not know me, but you're my neighbor. I get up in the middle of the night, I get up in a hurricane, I come out, I'm helping my neighbors. We're starting to get a little bit long in the tooth. When I first joined, everybody that we took in was older than I was. Nowadays, the vast majority of them are younger than I am. So we need people. There's an awful lot of things that you can do to help out. Like we said, traffic control, helping at the station, when we're at a scene, providing things as a backup, bringing stuff that we need. Everybody can help. Please come out.
So
Thank you.
Bob, what do you say to the people, and Brian, what do you say to the people that are like, I want to help, but I don't know that I have the time. I don't want to be one of those people that can't respond enough. Like somebody wants to volunteer, they want to go all in, but if they can't commit, I think there's some, at least for me, there'd be a lot of guilt there that I couldn't show up at 10 a.m.
Everybody is different. Everybody has a different lifestyle and does different things. I know that I am somewhat unique. For 30 plus years, I was in the US Navy on submarines. The amount of time that I spent away from home was quite long. When I'm a member of the fire department, until just recently, if there was a call, I went out. Didn't make any difference at what time of day it was, what day of the week, or what the weather was. So, and part of that is because of the Navy. We went and did what we had to do whenever it was called, we were called. Spent 30 years doing that, so I'm still doing it. But there are those people, Patrick, he's got kids. And the requirements now for parents today is much, much more than what it was when I had small children, when Sharon and I had small children. But there again, she took care of the kids when I went out to sea. So,
you're not going to get in trouble for trying. Sorry, Paul. But if you can't make it, you can't make it.
yeah, I mean, everybody's got situations where they have to weigh. Am I going to respond to the call, or do I have family obligations that are more important, or a job obligation? We've all got to live our lives.
All right, to add to that, I'd say that if you think you have some time, what I really ask for people, they're on the department, if you can commit to the trainings, if you can commit to the meeting, it's once a month for the meeting, trainings are a couple evenings, that's the piece that I need the commitment to. That's what we need. It's where the trainings where you'll learn what to do, how to do it, the right way to do it. The calls come in whenever. We don't predict that. We can't predict that. Everyone has different situations. So if you can't make calls because it just doesn't fall in a time that you have available, that's how it is. As far as making calls, I'd say that's less important. It's the commitment to the trainings, to the meetings, because those are scheduled. I'm putting out a schedule in January, and you're going to know when training is in July. Okay, so if you can plan for it, that's what I'm asking for people.
I had something.
Yeah, Jillian.
So I just want to add too, so don't focus so much on the time you don't have, focus on the time you do have, right? Most of us have full-time jobs, right? Most of us are busy throughout the day, but it's that 7 o'clock, you're getting ready to sit down for the night, the tones go off. Above might not want to drive at night, but me, I'm gonna go because I can drive at night, right? So you can't look at it as, I'm so busy, because you don't know what time that call's gonna go off. You don't know when it's gonna happen, right? You could be driving home from work and the call goes off and you're like, oh wow, I'm right next to the fire station right now. You don't know, right? Yes, there's gonna be times where you can't respond, but that's where our lovely retired folk or, people who are just kind of around, right? Pop in and step in and do that. You can't, if you focus on all the time you don't have, you're never gonna put your foot in the door. And then all the opportunities of the time you do have are gonna get missed. So that's the
8 to 10 hours a month. If you can find 8 to 10 hours sprinkled out throughout your month, that's the time commitment that we're asking for as a baseline. Extra is better. If you've got it, we'll take it. I've got things to do. If anyone have ever got a random afternoon off and you're like, hey, let's do some training, you call me, I will be there and do some training with you. It's that important and willing to do that. So that's kind of where we're at. So any final?
Share a quick story?
Absolutely, yes.
My kids, many years ago, when my in-laws driving down they live on the Park Road. Driving down 127, headed to the park, when a trailer coming the other direction has a wheel fly off the trailer straight at the front of their car with my 2 young children in the car. So of course, they're off the road, the fire department comes. My kids were 6 and 4, I would guess, at the time. And Rosemary was there, standing with my kids, giving them a juice box, giving them something to drink, loving on them. And those kids are now 19 and 21, and they, every time they saw her, would remember that she was the lady who took care of them when that happened. So that's part of the impact on the community.
Yep. And like Meg said earlier, we can't always make it better, but we can help make it better. And that's it can be very difficult at times. It's also highly rewarding. So.
Once you get your feet wet, it's easier and easier. I'm serious. Come into a training. If it's not for you, you don't have to come back. But if you get your feet wet, I was thrown in there, and there wasn't a lot of training at the time, and here I am 29 years later. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. With that, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thanks everyone for being online. I appreciate everyone taking the time for coming out and listening to me yap all night. So thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions. We got some cards out back. You guys can reach me at any point in time. Got some cards out back. My cell number, my office number's on there, email address. Anything comes up later, you got people that are interested, reach out and contact us. We can find a way to get in touch. So thank you again. Have a good night.